It's 7:43 in the morning. Breakfast is on the table. Backpack is by the door. You are, by some miracle, actually on time today. And then your 8-year-old sits down, looks at his toast, and completely falls apart because you cut it in rectangles instead of triangles. Rectangles. And you stand there in your kitchen, coffee going cold in your hand, staring at this small human who is now full on crying about bread geometry. And you think, what is happening? Am I raising a person who cannot cope with anything? Is this my fault? Is this normal? Why does everything have to be such a massive ordeal? Or maybe your version of this looks different. Maybe it's your 4-year-old melting down because her sock feels wrong, or your 6-year-old absolutely losing it because you turned the TV off 30 seconds before the show ended, or your toddler collapsed on the floor of the grocery store because you wouldn't let them hold the raw chicken. The details change, the feeling doesn't. Everything is a big deal. Nothing is ever right. You feel like you're walking on eggshells in your own home. And no matter what you do, no matter how patient you try to be, how many warnings you give, how many choices you offer, it keeps happening. And somewhere underneath all of it, there is this quiet, exhausting fear that you're doing something wrong, that you are somehow making this worse, that other parents don't feel this way. You're not doing something wrong. You are missing a piece of the picture, and that is what today is about. Hello, welcome back to Rooted in Relationship, when managing behavior isn't working. I'm your host, PCI certified parent coach Raelee Pierce. I'm so glad you're here, especially if you found this episode because you Googled something like, why does my kid fall apart over everything at 11 o'clock at night while eating crackers alone in the kitchen? That is a very specific search, and it means you're in the right place. Today, we are talking about what I think is one of the most confusing and demoralizing experiences of parenting. The child who loses it over everything, the meltdowns that seem wildly out of proportion, the reactions that leave you genuinely baffled, the constant sense that the floor is always one wrong move away from cracking. I want to give a real nod here to Dr. Gordon Neufeld, developmental psychologist and founder of the Neufeld Institute, whose work is the foundation of everything I do as a coach, because what he has helped me understand and what I want to help you understand today is that when a child is falling apart over everything, that is not a behavioral or a behavior problem. That is not a parenting failure. That is information. That is a child's nervous system doing exactly what it was designed to do, just in conditions it was never designed to handle alone. Here's what we're going to cover today. I'm going to tell you about 3 different families I've worked with, each with a child at a different age, and we're going to look at what was really going on underneath all those meltdowns. Then I'm going to give you a framework, simple enough to actually use, for what to do instead. And I promise I'm going to talk to you like a human being, not a textbook. Let's go. Here is the thing. I say to almost every parent who comes to me with this, and it sounds too simple, but stay with me. It is never about the sock. It's never about the toast or the wrong cup or the TV ending 30 seconds too soon. Those things are real. Your child is genuinely upset about them. I am not dismissing that, but they are not the cause. They are the spark. And what you're watching when a child completely falls apart over something tiny is not a child who has a sock problem. It is a child whose internal alarm system was already full and the sock just tipped it over. Think of it like a cup of water filled right to the very brim. You set that cup down gently on the table, nothing spills. But you so much as breathe on it wrong and water goes everywhere. The problem is not the breath. The problem is the cup was already full. Now, here's the question that changes everything. What was already in the cup? And this is where developmental science gives us something so much more useful than they're just tired or they're being dramatic. Because the thing that fills that cup, the thing that puts a child's nervous system into an alarm state, is almost always some form of felt separation, a sense often below the level of words, especially in young children, that their connection to you is not quite secure, that they have to work to hold on to it, that something about where they stand with you or with their world is uncertain. That alarm, that relentless pursuit of, am I okay? Am I wanted? Do I have you? Fills the cup. And when the cup is full, everything spills. Remember, it is never about the sock. It's about what was already in the cup. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. You're thinking, but I love my child enormously. I'm right there with them. I haven't gone anywhere. How are they separated from me? And this is the part that is so important. So please hear this. Separation is not just physical distance. To a child's nervous system, especially a young child, separation can be felt when a parent is emotionally distant, even if they're in the same room. It can be felt during a stressful season of a family's life, when the emotional temperature in the house is running high. It can be felt after any big transition, a new sibling, a new school, a move, a shift in routine. It can even be felt when a child senses that a parent is struggling, because children are extraordinary at picking up what is unsaid. This is not blame. I need to say that clearly. This is not me telling you that you are causing this. I am telling you that your child's alarm is a signal, and it is pointing towards something underneath the behavior, not toward bad parenting or broken child. So let me show you what this actually looks like in real families. The Pearsons came to me right around the time their second baby was born. Milo had been an easy kid, sweet, flexible, went with the flow, and then the baby arrived, and it was like a switch flipped. Everything became a fight. Getting dressed, leaving the park, transitions of any kind. The word no could launch a 20-minute meltdown. Mom told me he used to be so easy. I don't know what happened to him. And I asked her, when the baby cries, what happens in the room? She thought about it and said, well, everything stops. I go to the baby. Milo kind of just has to wait. There it is. Not because she was doing anything wrong. She was keeping a newborn alive, which is a full-time job in its own right. But to Milo's nervous system, something enormous had shifted. The person he had organized his whole world around was suddenly frequently unavailable. His cup was filling up with every feeding, every interruption, every time his need had to wait. And then his shoe was on the wrong foot, and the world ended. It was never about the shoe. Sophie was what her parents described as deeply sensitive. Their words, she has always been a lot. But this year, it's gotten so much worse. She cries about everything. She cries when she wins a game because she feels bad for the person who lost. She cries when she's happy. She cries when she's frustrated. She cries when she sees a commercial about dogs. And then we love her so much. But honestly, we don't know how to be with her when she's like this. We end up either trying to fix it really fast or just kind of pulling back because it's so exhausting. That last sentence, pulling back, is the key because Sophie is a highly sensitive child, which means her nervous system is wired to take in more emotion, more sensation, more nuance. She needs more connection, not less, to feel regulated. And when her parents, out of sheer exhaustion, completely understandably, pulled back when she was at her most intense, Sophie's alarm went up. She got harder to be with. They pull back more, and so on. The meltdowns were getting louder because the distance was getting bigger. She wasn't falling apart over everything. She was falling apart toward the people she most needed to reach. Jake was the one who surprised his parents the most because he was old enough that they really expected him to just handle things. He was in third grade. He knew how to regulate his emotions. He'd done it before. And yet every evening was a disaster. Homework was a war. The wrong dinner could ruin the whole night. He said, "This isn't fair," about 17 times a day. And Dad said to me a little helplessly, he's so dramatic. Everything is the end of the world. We've tried consequences. We've tried talking it out. We've tried ignoring it. Nothing changes. I'm starting to think he just likes the drama. I love parents. I really do. And I say this with such kindness. He did not like the drama. He was not doing this on purpose. He was in third grade, a year that developmentally brings with it a whole new awareness of the social world. Peers matter more. Belonging matters more. And Jake had been having a hard year socially. Some friendship trouble, some moments of being left out. Nothing catastrophic, but real. His cup was full of that every day. And then he came home and Dad asked him to do his homework and the cup spilled. 3 different kids, 3 different ages, 3 different situations, same underlying thing, a nervous system that had more alarm in it than it could hold. So let's talk about what parents are usually doing when they get to me, because you've not been sitting around doing nothing. I know you haven't. I know you've been trying. Here's the list I hear most often. See if any of this sounds familiar. You've been giving warnings, 5 more minutes, 3 more minutes. Last time, I'm telling you, the warnings are not landing. You've been offering choices. Do you want to put your shoes on first or your coat? Do you want to walk to the car? Should I carry you? The choices are being rejected or turned into a negotiation. You've been explaining. We do not cry about the cup. The cup works fine. It holds liquid. It's perfectly good cup. The explaining is making things worse. You've been doing consequences. We're not going to the park if you can't get it together. No screens tonight. The consequences are landing like a grenade in a room that was already on fire. And some of you have landed on ignoring because you read somewhere that you shouldn't give the meltdown attention. So you walk away, you go to another room, you try to wait it out, and it escalates or it stops, but your child is left alone in it. And something about that doesn't feel right to you because it isn't. Here's the hard truth about all of these strategies. They're aimed at the behavior. And behavior is the symptom, not the cause. When a child's alarm system is activated, when they're in a state of real neurological distress, the part of the brain that can respond to logic, choices, consequences, explanations, it's not available. It has been redirected to survival. You're having a rational conversation with a nervous system that is in emergency mode. And the emergency mode does not care about your reasons. You cannot logic your way into a regulated nervous system, but you can relationship your way there. This is the piece that changes everything. The goal is not to get the behavior to stop. The goal is to change the internal state. And the internal state changes through relationship, through felt connection, through the child's nervous system receiving the signal it has been looking for. You're safe, you're wanted, I have you, you can rest. And when the nervous system receives that signal, the behavior often takes care of itself. Not always immediately, not perfectly, but you stop fighting the symptom and start addressing the cause. Okay, let's get concrete. I want to give you 3 things. These are not a 5-step program. They are not a script to follow. They are orientations, ways of being that shift the conditions in your home so that your child's alarm has less to fill the cup with in the first place. So orientation 1, collect before you correct, before you direct, before any request, any transition, any correction, collect your child. This is one of the most important things I teach and the simplest to do. Before you ask anything of them, make contact first. Get on their level, make eye contact, let your face soften, let it say, there you are, I see you. You might touch their shoulder, you might just pause and smile at them for a second. A real smile, not the tight one you give when you're already bracing for a fight. You are not asking them to do anything. You are turning the attachment channel on. You are reminding their nervous system that you're there, that you're warm, and they don't have to work to get to you. Then, from that place, from that moment of connection, make your request. The difference in how it lands is remarkable. Not because you said magic words, but because their nervous system was receiving rather than defending. I tell parents you can set a timer if you want, 30 seconds of collect, then direct. Try it for 1 week and tell me what you notice. Okay, orientation 2, provide more than they're seeking. This one is genuinely counterintuitive because when a child is at their most difficult, when they are clingy and whiny and falling apart over everything, our instinct is often to pull back, to create distance, to give them space to regulate, to stop rewarding the behavior with attention. But for a child whose alarm is about connection, pulling back is fuel on the fire. You are confirming exactly what the nervous system feared, that you're not reliably there. What actually helps is to get ahead of the seeking. Before they come to you desperate for connection, go to them. Initiate the hug. Sit next to them on the couch for no reason. Catch their eye across the room and make a little face just for them. Be the one who reaches first. What you're doing is communicating at the level of nervous system, not words, that you're not a scarce resource, that they do not need to ration, that they can rest in the knowledge that you're there and they don't have to work to hold on to you. This is what Dr. Neufeld calls the feast. not a carefully measured meal, but abundance, more than enough. The signal that lets the brain finally exhale. I worked with Sophie's parents on this. Their instinct, because they were exhausted and her emotions were so big, was to create a little distance when she was at her most intense, to take a breath, regroup, wait for her to settle. But we worked on something different. Instead of pulling back when she escalated, but they moved closer, not to fix her feelings, not to make the crying stop, just to be present, to be the warm wall she could lean against. It took a few weeks. It felt unnatural at first, but Sophie's intensity started to come down because the alarm that was fueling it started to be answered. Okay, orientation 3, make room for the tears. This is the one that surprises parents the most because everything in us wants to stop the crying. We distract, we redirect, we fix the sandwich, we turn the TV back on, we offer the alternate snack. We do everything in our power to end the distress as fast as possible. But here's what the developmental science tells us. Tears are not the problem. Tears are actually the solution. When a child cries, really cries, not the escalating protest cry, but the softer, surrendering cry, what is happening in the brain is release. The alarm is coming down. The emotion is moving through rather than getting stuck. And on the other side of those tears, there is rest. There's a child who can take a breath, look at you and say, sometimes literally, okay, I'm ready. This is actually what happened with Milo's mom. She stopped trying to fix the meltdown. Instead, she sat down on the floor with him in the middle of the chaos without trying to make it stop. And she just said, I know it's hard, and held him while he cried. Not for long, just a few minutes. He cried, really cried, and then looked up at her and said, can we go to the park? Just like that. Flat, done, like someone had turned a switch. That is a nervous system that found what it was looking for and came to rest. Your job in those moments is not to stop the tears, it's to hold the container, to be warm and present and not frightened by the size of the feeling, to trust that emotion is meant to move. And when it moves, it changes. And when it changes, there is rest. Remember, tears are not the problem. Tears are the release. Your job is to hold the container, not plug the drain. I called this episode, My Kid Loses It Over Everything, and I'm Losing It Too. And I need to honor that second half because this is real. Parenting a child who is emotionally dysregulated takes a toll on the parent's nervous system that is genuinely hard to describe to someone who hasn't lived it. You are on high alert all the time. You are bracing, you are scanning, you are managing your own response to their response, while also trying to remember everything you read about what you're supposed to do. And sometimes you lose it. You say the sharp thing, you walk out of the room with a little more door than you meant to. You hear yourself saying something your own parent said in a voice you swore you'd never use. And then you add guilt to everything else you were already carrying. I want to say something very directly to you. This is not a character flaw at all. It is a nervous system responding to conditions it was not designed to handle alone. You are in alarm, same as your child. And You cannot regulate a child's nervous system from inside your own activated one. It's not a blame statement. It is a call to tend your own roots. Whatever it is that grounds you, your morning practice, your prayers, the walk before anyone else is up, the 3 minutes in the car before you go inside. That is not self-indulgence. That's parenting. That is how you get regulated enough to be the warm wall your child needs. I also want to say repair is powerful. If you lose it, and you will, because you are human, going back to your child and saying, I got too loud and I'm sorry. That's not weakness. It's one of the most important things you can model. It shows your child that relationships survive rupture, that love doesn't require perfection, that the floor doesn't fall out when someone makes a mistake and comes back, that repair itself is a form of connection, and connection is the whole game. All right, here's where I want to leave you. Your child is not falling apart because something is wrong with them. They are falling apart because their nervous system is full of alarm, and they don't have the tools yet to manage it alone. And they're falling towards you, specifically towards you, because you are the person their whole world is organized around, because you are the one they trust, because on some level, even in the middle of the meltdown over the wrong cup, they know that you are their safe place. That is not a burden. That is an invitation. You don't have to get this right every time. You don't have to have a perfectly regulated household. You don't have to stop feeling frustrated or exhausted or like you have nothing left. You just have to keep coming back, keep being warm, keep being bigger than the moment, keep providing the feast. And little by little, not overnight, not perfectly, the cup will be less full. The alarm will have less to work with. And those meltdowns over the toast and the sock and the wrong color cup, they will start to shrink because the thing underneath them is getting answered. The relationship is always the thing. If this episode landed for you, if you're sitting there going, okay, but how do I actually do this in my specific situation with my specific child? That is exactly what I'm here for. Come find me at innerlifeparenting.com. I offer a free clarity session, just the two of us, where we can look at what's happening in your home and start to see your child through a developmental lens. We'll figure out together what your child's alarm is pointing at and how you can begin a real parenting practice with actual support so that you're not doing this alone anymore, because you really shouldn't have to. Take good care of yourself this week. I'll see you in the next episode.